I've been truly overwhelmed with all of the people who have reached out and told me that they've resonated with my truth and my words. And I wanted to put together a Q&A because there's been so many people in the comment sections of my videos and my conversations. And there's people in my Patreon, public members who have been asking me questions through the comments. And I just thought it'd be a great opportunity for me to deal with and answer all of the questions that are coming up most frequently and most often. It'd be nice for the community, it'd be nice for all of you guys to see, to get to know a bit more about the in-depth parts of the conversations and bits of the conversations that I've touched on. So firstly, thank you to everyone for following my journey and for reaching out and for allowing me to be able to build a community where we can spread truth and remembrance together. I think it's really important that the more people that reach out, the more people I speak to, the more this message of truth can spread across as many people as possible so that we can all start remembering who we are and we can all start to live fearlessly in this realm or this reality, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I have been reading through your comments and questions recently. I wanted to take some time to respond more directly, not just with explanations, but through reflection. So many of the questions touch on the same essence about source, reality, awareness, dreams, fear, and what it really means to remember who we are. My intention in this video isn't to teach, it's to share what I've come to understand through my own experience, what I've lived and not just what I've read. So whether you're exploring lucid dreams, the out-of-body state, or simply trying to bring more awareness into your everyday life, this video is for you. So the first question is a big one. It's deep, so we're going to go straight in. The question is, what is source? So I often refer to the word source. And I've also been asked, why don't you call it the source? Source is God. You wouldn't say the God, because God implies everything. It implies all. So source is just that. I could call it God, but I choose to call it source because God can mean many different things to many different people. Source literally gets to the root. It is the source of all things. So source is the infinite, limitless energy, consciousness, awareness that exists inside all things and outside of all things. It is everything. It always has been, always will be, and always is. It's what's in your core. It's what your true essence is made of. From my experiences, what's tough about this is it's actually nothing, but it's everything. And the best way that I can explain that is it's potentiality. Source is just presence, a knowing of I am. If we were to kind of explain in a timeline scenario, you would say in the beginning, there was nothing. But this nothing was an infinite nothingness that suddenly became aware of itself. And by becoming aware of itself, it understood that it's always existed. And from this understanding of existing, it decided to see what it could do. And what Source did was try to find out what it was by exploring itself. The only way to explore itself would be to separate itself into multiple versions of itself so that duality could exist. And what that allowed was for Source to uniquely explore and understand what it is through individual perspectives. I could keep going and going and going, but I'm going to leave that there. So just simply, Source is the underlying infinite, limitless potentiality which is aware of itself, that is inside and outside of everything, that has always existed and always will exist. So I got asked after one of my conversations, what do you mean by this is not real? The person who asked this question was referring to when I spoke about this reality that we're currently living in and that we're currently experiencing. Now, that question, I can see straight away that is based on fear. It comes from fear. You're asking that question because you want this to be real. You want to grasp to something. What do you mean this isn't real? And it's kind of a fearful, but I want to exist. And I know that's the root of the question because I've been through that and I felt that myself. And when I've just explained source, when you understand that that's the only thing that exists, just that presence of I am, then nothing else is real. It's just an illusion that source has created to experience itself. Now, this might sound scary and it might sound frightening, but the only reason that fear comes from this understanding is because of your attachment to the identity and labels that you've put on yourself. So from when you're born, you identify with your name, your age, your hobbies, your likes, your dislikes, and you accumulate this personality or this persona or this identity of who you believe you actually are. So whilst you're growing up and you do that and you exist as this identity in this reality, you believe so much that this identity is real, and that also leads to you believing so much that this reality is real. So when someone tells you that it's not real, it cracks that comfort that you've created. It cracks at that safety net that you've created. And that's why this question comes from fear, because I've directly cracked an illusion that you've placed upon yourself. Because I understand how deep this stuff can get and how fearful it can get, I do want to kind of put a positive spin on what I'm saying for those who don't quite yet understand. Just because this isn't technically real doesn't mean you can't experience it as real and love it just as much. It also is real. This is your life. This is your experience. You can live this as fully as you want, love as much as you want, have as much emotion as you want, be as present as you want, love your child as much as you want, play football or soccer or dance or sing or do whatever as much as you want, and it will all be real. It is real for you in that moment. So this is the way that Source has created it. Although you can experience Source at its true core, at its true essence, for what it is, it doesn't take away the fact that this will always be here. There will always be experience for eternity. So you literally have forever to experience life. It doesn't matter if technically it's not real. You can experience it as being real forever. So that's the positive spin that I'll put on it. So I had this question come up quite a lot, and it was when I was talking about my mushroom experience, and the people basically asked me, tell me more about the expanded state of awareness that you experienced. You mentioned that you had no identity and nothing to attach to. So it's basically what I've just been talking about. When you experience Source at its core, there is no identity, there is no attachment. It is just infinite awareness. It's a knowing and an understanding that you are an infinite presence and nothing more than a presence, than an observer, than an awareness and a consciousness. An I am. That is all that there is, an I am. So when I had my mushroom experience and I became aware of this infinite dimension, and when I understood that that infinite dimension was me, then my identity of Sasha, of my hobbies, the things I love, the things I hated, everything disappeared in that moment, because I realized I was just presence, infinite presence. So that's what I mean by I had no identity and nothing to attach to. But again, let me put a positive spin on this. What that taught me was When I became neutral, completely neutral, and it was a depressive, nihilistic state, I had an urge in that moment and in that period of my life to want life, to love life, to be fully immersed in life. And what that taught me was that is exactly why Source has created what it's created. When Source realized that it was just infinite awareness and nothing more, it urged for something more. And that urge, that desire, is what's created an infinite playground of endless possibilities. We are Source. So when we strip away the illusion of the identity and labels that we've placed upon ourselves, we are left with the feeling of Source, of what Source really wants. And by going through this experience, you realize how to love life so much more than you ever could before you knew you were Source. Because it's kind of, and this is why truth resonates. This is why it's so important, because when you believe that you are nothing more than a human being and you attach yourself to your identities and labels, you are limited in the amount of love that you can experience for life. But when you experience a death of that personality and become aware of your true self, you now have an infinite potential to love life in whatever way you want to love it. Now, this next question is great. Expand on the relationship between fear and love and how remembering who we are truly helps eliminate fear. Fear and love are a paradox. They're two sides of the same coin. When you live in fear, you live without love. And when you live in love, you live without fear. Many people say that hate is the opposite of love, but I believe that fear is the opposite of love. When you are fearful, and you might not even know you're fearful, you control. Fear leads to control. And what control is an accumulation and a grasp of things in your life that you try to hold on to because of your fear of letting go. So if you're in a relationship, if you're in a romantic relationship and you control your partner, you are controlling them out of fear, not out of love. If you are a parent and you are controlling your child, you are controlling them out of fear, not out of love. Now we can spin this. If you're in a romantic relationship and you express out of love rather than fear, you will notice that you do not control anything about your partner. You allow them to be fully themselves and you love them for who they are. It's different to if you feel disrespected or if you feel like there's certain aspects of the relationship that don't align with you. You can have those conversations with them. And that doesn't mean you're not being loving. In fact, it's the opposite. You are definitely being loving by speaking up for what you truly want in that relationship. As long as you don't control their behaviour, then you are acting out of love and not fear. When you raise your child, of course you should look after them. Of course you should teach them right from wrong. But you should not control their life. You should allow them to be 100% authentically their true selves. This is why love and fear are so close, because there's a fine line between control and surrender. When you remember who you truly are, you understand that there is nothing to control and that you have been holding on and controlling your whole life the whole time. And you never knew that that was out of fear. So when you remember who you truly are, you let go of all of the constraints you placed upon yourself and you allow life to happen in front of you. And that's when true unconditional love comes through. And I want to make this very clear. It's not about eliminating fear. Being in unconditional love and living in unconditional love does not eliminate fear. Fear will always be there as part of your human self because it's a protective mechanism that the body and mind have, because that's just part of this realm. It's the code that's written in this world, so you can't really escape it. Just like you can't escape having five senses and five fingers. Fear's built in, emotions are built in, but there's a way to change your perspective on fear so that you look at it different and carry it differently within you, so you don't have to ever live in fear, but you can just accept it, understand it, and walk with it throughout your life. I love this question. Are lucid dreams just as important as OBEs? Just different gateways to the same awareness. Personally, I've had OBEs and I've come back from them and I've always brought something back. And they are more like a lot more present state. So you feel fully physically there, you're communicating, you're able to be 100% aware. Whereas lucid dreams, although you can bring your awareness in, and with practice you can really bring your awareness in so it becomes an OBE. Lucid dreams for me have been more like a training ground. So when I have lucid dreams, I use them to explore in a safe space. When you dream, basically that's your created construct, that's your created dimensional space. When you go to sleep and you fall to sleep, you are creating your own space and your awareness is going into that space. When you become lucid in that space, you can then you can train yourself to become more aware. You can train yourself in a way that will help you navigate these states. You can even eventually train yourself to come out of the dream and experience an out-of-body experience. Lucid dreams are just as important as OBEs, but everything is. Experience is experience. Like I said, Source has created an infinite playground for experience. Dreams, unaware dreams, conscious dreams, OBEs, realities, realms, higher states, lower states, everything is contrast. Everything is an infinite potential way for Source to experience itself in every way. So you can learn from every single state that you experience. Now, the next question, I can basically expand on the last one. The question is, can you talk more about dreams? So like I said, when you drift off and you go to sleep and you're unaware, it's possible that your soul is actually aware and exploring more than just your dimensional space. I look at dreams as the same as everything else, because when Source had the desire to experience what it is, all it did was imagine. When you go to sleep and you close your eyes and the dream starts to form, you are doing the exact same thing that Source did when it wanted to experience itself for the first time. Everything around us, everything that exists, is imagination. When you have a dream and it seems foggy, it's because it's literally your imagination. You are imagining that world. It becomes more real when you're focused more into it and you bring your awareness in, but it's just imagination. A dream is an imagination of yourself. Realities are imaginations of yourselves, and the whole of infinity's experiences are the grand imagination of Source. But what I love about dreams, and especially lucid dreams, is that they allow you to live more consciously while you're awake. So when I go into my lucid dreams and I learn more about myself and I exit them and I have OBEs, I always bring back more of my true self. I always bring back more of my soul, and I'm able to live more presently in this reality. And it's so important, and I've said this a lot, it's so important to do that, because currently nearly every person in the world is stopping their self from experiencing this reality. So the more that you explore yourself, the more that you bring into this reality. And that's the whole point of being here. You were born into this experience to forget who you was, so that your soul could fully experience itself as Source, but not knowing its source. Now, this is a great question. It's from one of our private members of our Patreon. We're building a community there and it's great. And I love how people are starting to speak up more and be more confident and ask more questions, because it just helps spread the truth that much more between everyone. But this is a great question. So this is, what does my soul experience while I'm unaware in sleep? And if I become aware, like in an OBE, would my higher self become my guide? Let's work backwards from that question. In my experience, your highest self is always your guide. Your highest self can see your pasts, present, and futures. It's aware of everything that will happen, is happening, and has happened. And it's that highest self that is pushing to come through as much as it can. This is how I look at it. The highest self has fragmented itself into multiple souls. And ideally, what it wants to do is push all of its awareness into each soul so it can fully experience the realities that it's in. When you're not 100% yourself, your highest self, the awareness that is there, that's left there, is guiding you as much as possible in the most loving way it can, because it knows you more than anyone, because it is the true state of you, to become your true self. So your high self is always your guide no matter what. What your soul experiences while you're asleep and unaware is dimensional spaces, yours and others. It explores the realms. It never sleeps. So it's just that you're unaware of it. When you become lucid in a dream, that's you bringing your awareness into the current dimensional space that your soul is, or your soul body is at that present moment experiencing. That could be your dimensional space, but it also could be something else. So while you're unaware, you're simply exploring the infinite. So this question is kind of for everyone who wants to experience an experience using the binaural gateway method that I mentioned in my guide. And the question is, what binaural beats do you use? So I want to make this clear. I haven't used binaural beats for years because that's not my go-to method anymore. I didn't like the waiting for a long time to have a potential hypnagogic state or potential sleep paralysis. I found it too long, too time consuming. I lost too much sleep. However, saying that, there was an app that I used that I have shared with people, and I will tell you it. The app that I used was called Binaural Beats Generator Plus, and it was a plus sign rather than the word plus. Now, I mentioned about the hertz in each ear, the 436 and the 432. But on this app, you have to set it a bit differently. So you have to set binaural beats to 4 hertz. You have to set the bass frequency to 434 hertz. And you have to keep the balance and center both centered. I'd recommend keeping the sound low to mid. You don't want it too loud and you don't want it too low. You want to find that perfect balance. And that setting, although it doesn't sound like it, will give you the 436 and the 432. And it worked for me. So, but on the back of that, I do want to add that binaural beats are good. They can work. And they do help some people, a lot of people, because of the way their mind works. And it does distract them from thoughts and whatnot. But I want to say that intention and how you approach going into these experiences are a lot more important than using the beats. So if you just keep an intention and set an intention in your mind that you're going to have an experience and let that go, and just throughout the day now and again have little moments or pockets of excitement for the experience you're about to have, that is so much more powerful than the beats themselves, because it's intention and curiosity and excitement that are the foundation for having an experience. And when you do eventually lay down with this intention that you've placed and this excitement and curiosity that you've had, and then you put the beats on, total surrender to whatever is about to unfold with a slight anchor of awareness is key. And I'll leave that there, and hopefully that helps a lot of you. Now, this is the last question, and I love it because it's real and it's what a lot of people go through. And yeah, I believe, that there's so many people now that talk about having OBEs and having these big experiences, but there's so many people that have different experiences that are just as important and resonate more with people. And it's almost like people are scared or shy to talk about the small experiences. And I found that in my Patreon as well. And I really want to urge people to speak about every experience, all of your small ones, all of the big ones, because all of it leads to remembrance, all of it leads to experience, all of it leads to, communicating and finding out something that you didn't know before. There might have been a memory that you had that you forgot about, or there might have been a small experience that you disregarded, but actually actually was a key part of where you're about to go next. So I love this question, and it's, I only get tingles and nothing more. So yes, I've been there. Even though I'm really experienced in getting myself into sleep paralysis, sometimes after years of doing it, I have only just felt the tingles as well. And this is why I can answer this question, because I know exactly what's happening. You know, sometimes I want to tell people that diet does matter. It does matter. I have had experiences before where I've had a takeaway and a glass of wine, and I've still had an experience. But diet really does matter. Cutting out caffeine, I've found after 12 p.m. really helps, because caffeine kind of keeps you alert and awake. And if you're trying to get into sleep paralysis, your body's kind of, and your mind is kind of working more than it normally would off caffeine. It kind of keeps you awake, even when you feel sleepy. It kind of keeps you awake, and it kind of potentially stops you from having an experience. So that's one thing I'd say about getting past the tingles, is focus on your diet and eliminating caffeine, maybe just limiting it in general, just stopping after 12 p.m. Don't have any more caffeine. Secondly, I would say that when you do start to notice tingles, and you might not think it, but you're becoming aware of the tingles stops you progressing. And this is a really fine line, and it's something that only experience can kind of help you with. So in every single experience that you all are going to experience at some point, whether it's tingles or hypnagogic visions or sleep paralysis, they all require the exact same focus and amount of attention. It's complete surrender, complete relaxation, complete calmness, but with a sliver of awareness anchored. And although this comes with experience and it's hard to explain, I will try to explain it for you as best as I can. When an experience starts to form, try not to focus on it, because the experience has only formed because of your state before. You need to stay in the exact same state and wait and relax. And the more you relax and let go, the more these tingles will lead to vibrations. So don't focus on the tingles. Allow the tingles. Don't focus on the vibrations. Allow the vibrations. Stay in the calm, neutral, very slightly curious state, and just allow what is about to unfold. Sometimes what stops this as well is fear, and you might not know it. There's been a private member of my Patreon who has had 3 separate experiences, and I've spoke to them recently. And what I've noticed in all 3 of the experiences, they're all different ways of entering an OB or a lucid dream, but they stop just before they get into that next phase. They stop just at that threshold. And it's the same thing that's stopping them. It's the same thing that's not allowing you to have more than tingles. And it could be fear. It could be, oh, I'm feeling this now. And your body is going, this is strange, this is unusual, and it reacts. And you might not realize that your body's reacting, but it is, and it's stopping you from doing it. So you have to put yourself in a state of trust, surrender, relaxation, and acceptance, and just allow what is about to unfold. That's the best way I can describe that and help you with that question. So I'm going to end it there. I loved all the questions. I love people reaching out and asking these questions that some might seem small to them, some might seem big to them. It doesn't matter. They're all questions that help us all remember. Each of these questions points back to the same place, and it's remembrance of who we are. We explore source, awareness, fear, love, dreams, and all of these experiences because deep down we're trying to remember who we are beyond them. And that remembering doesn't take us away from life. It brings us into life fully. So whether you're just starting to feel those first tingles, or you've travelled deep in expanded states, I just want to remind all of you that you are exactly where you need to be in this moment. So give yourselves a break. Believe and trust that your higher self knows exactly what it's doing. Believe and trust that you are on the exact part of your journey that you need to be. And trust what happens and let go. So I just want to finally say, if you would like to go deeper into these states or connect directly with me or anyone within my community and others on this path, you can find my full guide and community on my Patreon, which I'll link below. And I want to say a massive thank you for being part of this journey with me, for following me, for allowing all of us to remember together, for coming together, for pushing the truth, and for asking these questions that keep this subject alive, because it's more than just a subject. It's truth. It's who we are. It's what we are. It's what we all need to remember. So let's all please work together to spread this truth so that we can finally remember together.